either 16 or 30. No one likes that dick, do we? All right, our next storyteller, Ann Goethals. She's a retired English teacher of high school students. She put her own writing aspirations aside for 3 decades. But that changed in 2020 when she retired and started writing her own story, or her own book, which will be published in September. And the name of that is Double Wide. Since then, she's been working on a sequel. So please put your hands together for Ann Goethals.
This feels kind of idiotic because that was an amazing performance. And I'm going to read, so... tonight's tagline is love is the answer, but it's also a question, right? Like the harder one, the darker one, as in, where is the, and how deep is it, and where did ours go? Yep, those are all song lyrics. Songs about love, seeking it, finding it, having it, losing it, most of all living through it. One of the first places I found it, love that is, was on the radio. I was probably 6 or 7 when I first tuned in to Casey Kasem and his Top 40. And being 6 or 7, they were my Top 40. Crimson and Clover, Rockin' Robin, Sugar Pie Honey Punch, Tracks of My Tears. And then I grew up and there were records, and FM radio was being born. First aired only in the dark hours with hipster stations way down on the left end of the dial that would play entire hallucinatory albums all night long. And then rock and roll jumped off of vinyl and onto the airwaves that were not owned by big stations. And my mind, as we might have said back then, was blown. As I wandered through the country in my 20s, I got to know that dial. Left end, classical, maybe some public radio, maybe some jazz, and that nascent rock and roll. Then in the middle right, starting with about 101, 102, were the hit grinders with the 6-song playlists and the 5-minute advertisement breaks. And then further down, on the right end of the dial, was the jackpot, black radio. R&B, soul, later on hip-hop. It was fabulous. If you wanted to get high and couch slouch, you moved down to the left side of the dial. But if you wanted to get up and move, you went right. 106.1, 107.5, and you danced. I forgot what was in the middle most of the time. There's something my mom listened to. She'd be drinking scotch and making dinner. It was a classical station with a DJ who introduced Mozart and Bach like he wanted to talk you into bed. But like, that's what good DJs do, right? They say, come here, get comfortable. Come on over here. You want to dance? Whatever you do, don't touch that dial. We moved to Chicago in June of '83 at one of those crucibles that we all run into in our 20s, like, what are we going to do with that college degree? And how are we going to pay the rent? Who the fuck stole my bicycle the first week in the city? And the big one, is Chicago going to be our home? Like many of our generations, we have lugged our stereo across country and then back again, along with 2 milk crates full of records, because whatever else you left behind, you carried your music with you. Didn't matter how heavy. And it was the first thing you unpacked in a new apartment. There was a tuner in that stereo, and we taped that lame-ass antenna up on the living room wall and started spinning the dial. And right down there in the low 90s, we found WXRT. Or maybe it found us. You never know with love, right? Did you search for it and finally get it? Or was it up there in the ether somewhere, just waiting for you to ripen and be ready to accept it and treat it right? We had lived in other cities with other rock and roll stations, But although we had tuned in, they had never quite fit, you know? There were stations playing big arena rock, you know, or poppy shit, or they were too repetitive. There was one in Tucson that would not stop playing Bowie and Queen. Bowie and Queen. But here in Chicago at 93.1 was this hip, smart bunch of disc jockeys playing music I loved. Some of it I knew, already a good daily dose of Stones, Dire Straits, Pretenders, Richard Thompson, Traffic. They played Layla all the way through. They played Alice's Restaurant on Thanksgiving. And they played Bonnie. My beloved Bonnie, who I had found on a turntable in 1971 back in Boston, Massachusetts. And here was a radio station playing her before she hit the yellow brick Grammy Road. Cry like a rainstorm, indeed. I also howled like the wind. In those first lost days and months, when we were getting our legs, it felt like radio, and XRT in particular, was giving me a roadmap to this new territory called the Midwest. It wasn't just a place I had landed, it was a whole new world, and it was filled with music and people who loved it. Chicago had always been, I soon learned, since the first Great Migration and even before, churning out music, some of it deep, old, with African roots and Southern despair, some of it with new, brash, raucous, punk. It was hip and defiant in its rejection of New York or LA. Call us the third coast or the second city and fuck off while you're at it. We had the Insiders. We had the Replacements. We had the Maycons, the Smashing Pumpkins, the Cowboy Junkies, the Jayhawks. We had Chess Records. We had the Checkerboard Lounge. We had the Empty Bottle and the Hideout and Martyrs. But the best radio also turns you on to new artists, new music. XRT was all over that. It was like a Spotify for my soul, but the word algorithm was still neatly tucked into math books. And the playlists on FM radio were made by humans. One morning I was dressing after a shower, the radio still on in the bathroom, when I heard a song that caught my ear, something about banging on an old guitar and singing what he had to say. It was country, but it was rock. It was Nashville, but there was a little Chicago in it. It was cool. I dropped the underwear I was trying to step into and went back into the bathroom just in time to catch the third verse, which began, "Now I'm in the car, and I got the radio on." I was hooked. I headed to the phone, or rather the phone book. You remember those? And I went to W, temporarily stymied by acronyms. How are they alphabetized? But the next letter was X, right? And there it was. And I called, expecting an answering machine. Do you remember those? But a human answered. Johnny Mars, XRT. And I described the song, and he goes, "Oh yeah, that guy? That's John Hyatt." And another love affair began. John Hyatt changed my life in all kinds of ways I won't go into here, but I do believe he wrote what may be the best lyric ever about being shit-faced, which is, "I was gonna get up from that bar stool just as soon as I could figure it out." Radio showered me with gifts. Lucinda Williams, The Replacements, who taught this East Coast folkie how to really rock. Wilco. I heard them one afternoon on my way home from work, and even though I had kids to pick up and dinner to make, I stopped at a record store to buy Being There. But let's be clear, I was not totally monogamous. People grow up, they discover public radio and listen to it. They grow into understanding jazz and tune it in. They have kids in the back seat who want to find Taylor Swift or Nickelback. So the dial turns, you know, BZ, DCB, GCI, V103. But it was first and always XRT, and this is why. I finally grew up for real and got a career. I taught high school in the suburbs and lived in the city, and that meant a commute. And a commute meant radio. Now, teaching is a really, really hard job if you want to do it well. And if you decide you're going to be good at it, you think about it all the time. So sadly, on Mondays and Tuesdays, the radio had to stay off. I had to turn it off to lesson plan or re-lesson plan or whatever it was I thought I was doing to be a better teacher. But by Wednesday, that radio was back on. And Friday mornings, wow, XRT loved a Friday morning. The last leg of the work week, and they spun records to make sure we knew the end was in sight, and here's a magic carpet to get you there. I would crank up the volume, roll down the window, and sing. I was rockin'. Much of my love affair with radio happened, in the car. It's a ritual with us now. Even now, that leaving town, we listen to Chicago radio till the signal fades. And coming home, we try to pick it up as soon as we can. We don't stream radio stations. We turn or punch the dial. We're not purists. We have Spotify, but there's nothing like radio. There's nothing like humans. There's nothing like playlists. If the price I have to pay to hear the sound of home is to listen to ads, well, that's what the mute button's for. So to return to the beginning, as it were, back in the 80s, you could wear jeans to work only on Fridays. And as I said, on those burnt out mornings, listening to the Pretenders help me rock the traffic and kill the exhaustion with Terry or Frankie or Lynn telling me it was a great day to be alive, I felt, well, I could do it. I could get through the day. You could toss teenagers at me, bullshit admin at me, yelling parents at me, fucking grading systems that crashed at anything. You could throw anything. I was good. I had suited up with the radio on. All DJs, but for me especially the XRT DJs, love music, and through it, they seem to be loving me. Call it nirvana, or transcendence, or just a band of horses cantering through my brain. These humans coming through my car's speakers were apostles of the Church of Rock and Roll Radio. And they were spinning that particular song at that particular moment to let me know that beyond being a struggling teacher or a bewildered mother, I was still just a blue jean baby following the music up on the skyway, and I had brass in pocket. To paraphrase another great love song, here's a P.S. As I was driving to a meeting on Sunday morning, having just finished Revise This, I turned on the radio. Led Zeppelin, a band my husband had tried in vain to get me to love for decades, and which, okay, now I have abiding respect for. The song was All of My Love. And the DJ, I'm not lying, the DJ was Johnny Mars, telling us we could all use more of that, right? And because both of us, Mars and me, were 40 years older, he added, and oh, by the way, be careful out there on those icy sidewalks. You don't want to be falling.